The three major religions in the world all come down to one story about one guy. And this story may have had the most impact on Western civilization in all of human history. It comes down to one decision from one guy. And that's what we're talking about this week.
Kindred UMC live show features adults discussing adult topics, occasionally with adult language. It may not be suitable for young viewers. Please use discretion before watching.
Hello all, welcome once again to the pre-recorded live show from Kindred UMC, coming to you not live but pre-recorded from my front room, aka Kindred Studio A. My name is Chris Hayden. I'm the pastor of Kindred UMC.
I'm Ann, and I'm the treasurer for Kindred UMC.
And I'm Preston, and I had an old experience today, one of my first. I realized while fixing the toilet somebody stole my monkey wrench, and that's it. So I got very, very upset because I couldn't find a monkey wrench, and I just went and bought a new one because what's the point of texting 400 million people to ask who has it?
Hey, that's a riveting story.
Yeah. Find your monkey wrenches.
So find your monkey wrenches, and also you know you're getting old when you begin to get angry at inanimate objects.
My tools!
Yeah. Good, which I can identify with. We are continuing our march through Genesis, but we're coming to a unique place. So we did all kind of almost the prehistory stuff. So that's like, the 7 days of creation, Adam and Eve, flood story, Noah's Ark, Tower of Babel. And now we're coming to what is essentially the beginning of the Old Covenant. When we talk about Old Covenant, we're talking about, oh, by the way, Ethan's here. When we're talking about Old Covenant, we're talking about an agreement, a relationship-based agreement that God has with, and it starts with this one particular guy. Does anybody know his name?
Abram.
That's right, it's Abram.
Wasn't that Noah promised the first covenant?
Well, so yes, God makes a covenant with Noah's family.
Pre-stipulation
but then it kind of implicitly it goes awry, and that's why the Tower of Babel story is there.
Okay.
So Abram is one of the descendants of the many, many people from Noah, according to the story. Again, it's important not to read too literally into this. Like, the peoples of the earth did not come from one particular person named Noah and his family. We're not all products of incest, Like, there were multiple people and lots of interspecies, or not interspecies.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that one's right.
Inter-tribal, I guess. Yeah. Intercultural crossbreeding, cross-pollination, we might say.
We put bleach in the cesspool.
To clean it up, So we're going to be looking at the call of Abram. So this is from Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 2. And they sound like this. Now the Lord said to Abram, it's also important to note that up until this point, we really don't know anything about Abram. He's just listed in the begats and the father of kind of stuff. So he's just one guy, So now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you. And make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those that bless you, and I will curse those I will bless those who bless you, and the one who curses you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Lot's his nephew. Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Abram took his wife Sarai and his brother's son Lot, and all the possessions that they had gathered, and the persons whom they had acquired in Haran. Or I don't know how to pronounce that really. And they set forth to go to the land of Canaan. When they had come to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to a place at Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, to your offspring I will give this land. So he built there an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill country on the east of Bethel and pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. And there he built an altar to the Lord and invoked the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed on by stages toward the Negeb. So this is where it all starts, folks. This is where it all starts. So, did you catch how old Abram was?
75?
Yeah, 75. 75 years old. What do you make of that?
That's old enough.
Yeah.
It's young now. They're running marathons.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't really running marathons back then.
No. Sounds like you walked it.
Not the 75-year-olds. Yeah. So he's 75 and he's got no children.
Is 75 a Hebrew, what do you call
Like
it?
numerology?
He's not like something special, but it's like their way of exaggerating. Like it didn't take just 7 years; it took 700. You're like,
So I should do a little research. So similar to when we talked about David and Matthew's gospel, David, the number 14 is kind of a reference to David because numbers and letters are interrelated in Hebrew. I wonder if 75 is that. It has something like that. I doubt it because as we go through, we're going to keep updating his age. He's going to go from 75 to I think 80 something to then 99, and then he's going to die at an age so they keep updating his age. Mm-hmm. The thing that I've made of it, the closest meaning that I can make of that is it's actually a common practice in ancient storytelling to exaggerate the age of somebody who is important. So like a lot of pharaohs, if you go back to ancient Egypt, a lot of pharaohs lived to be like 800 and 900 years old, according to what's written about them. They didn't, like people didn't live that long, but that was a way of kind of like increasing their import in the story. So the fact that he's old is an important part of the story, but he's probably not that old because 75 is in an ancient setting, in an ancient Near East setting, you're dust, you're dead. You're like, there's no way. Like, so probably he was, in his 30s, like he was probably just an old guy
but after the peak,
for that age, and his wife was also old enough to where you wouldn't expect her to give birth to children, and they have no children. So that's an important part of the story because remember that this story was written down in about 600 BCE, so like way after the events of this story. So the setting of this story is maybe 1,000+ years before that, but when it was finally written down, it was written for an audience they were Hebrew people who had been captured by Babylon and deported to the capital city of Babylon, and they'd been exported or deported from their Jerusalem, their like Zion, their place where they commune with God. So that's the audience. And they're talking about the guy that started it all and his relationship with God, and it's based on he doesn't have children, which is an important cultural thing going on. Like if you don't have kids, then you're dead. Like that's how you get eternal life. You pass on your name and your blessing and your wealth and your teaching and your essence through having kids. And also there's just some logistic things like maintaining a farm and running a household. Right. It helps to have hands, like it helps to have extra people to be able to like till the ground and stuff like that. So the fact that they have no kids is a big deal. And then God comes to him and says something outlandish. Like he hears a voice in his head, And the only thing because I preached this before and I always liked this line. The only thing crazier than hearing voices in your head is doing what they tell you to do. Mm-hmm. That's what he does. But I think a lot of hay has been made about Abram's faithfulness and how he like was faithful to God, and like that's going to come. But essentially, like, what was Abram's call?
Go.
It was like, get your things and go over there. You know, it's actually really small. It's not like a huge deal. It's like, hey man, it's time to move out of the basement. You know, it's time to get out of your father's household. It's time to go over there. And he takes all of his stuff and he goes to a place what is later going to be called Canaan. You know, and do you remember like what he does when he gets there as he's going? Like what happens?
Built an altar.
Yeah.
So like. Out of rocks around him, or
and do you remember what happens right before he builds it? Do you remember?
Worship, set a fire, something.
Well, he probably there was probably some ritual, and he probably built what's called an Ebenezer, which is just stacked stones, you know, as an altar to mark this occasion. But you know what? Do you know what caused him? Like what the thing he was marking was?
I just remember the tent.
Yeah. So God says to him right before he builds it, he goes to this place called the Oak of Moreh, and he builds an altar because God says, I'm going to give this land to your descendants. So before God has followed through on what God is going to do, Abram builds an altar and worships God for what he's about to do. You know?
You've already got a bonus set up. Like, the bonus is there. Just follow through.
Yeah. And also, like, so this calling that he gets to, like, go, you know, I actually, a lot of, you know, it can be kind of mystical and the ethereal. The Holy Spirit calls him and whispers into his ear, and he takes this giant risk. Like, no, he didn't. Like, he was old. He didn't have kids. He was wealthy because they have servants, you know, and they were landowners. I imagine him like looking out on the horizon and being like, is anything ever gonna change? Like, is anything gonna happen ever? And like that's when he gets the calling to go. You know, like this is kind of the beginning of an adventure, you know? So like it makes a lot of sense to me that Abram in his old age and in his like, well, I haven't really done anything here that matters, so I might as well go over there, you know, like let's see what happens over there.
And him being a human too, I'm wondering to put like a mind on it. Just because you just hear Abraham and you're like, okay, next, like what's...
And Abraham, by the way, is what Abram eventually his name becomes.
Yeah.
So we'll use them interchangeably because it's too hard to keep track of.
But it's weird to think if you're that old, you're also thinking, how long did it take? Like it has to be a calling or something of that. This wasn't him that had the decision.
Well, so do you remember what the calling, the words of the calling, like what God says to Abram as he's inviting him to go? Like he says some of the key points. I'll bless those that bless you, and anyone who curses you, I will curse them. But the start of it, the basic of it, after he says, take all of your things and go over there, and what?
I'll be with you, or
he doesn't say that exactly, although that is certainly...
I'll meet you there, or
a land I'll show you, I think is what you're getting around. It says, go to a land I'll show you, and then he says something really important after that. And I will make of you a great nation. Like so he's got this old geezer,
right,
who hasn't had any kids, whose wife almost certainly is in menopausal, you know,
right.
like, and God says, from you, I'm going to build a nation of people. And so Abram's like, okay, like you can hear the skepticism involved in that. So then Abram actually goes, and when God shows him, he says, I'm going to give all the people that I'm going to make of you a great nation, all of your descendants, I'm going to give them this land. This is going to be your... And then Abram builds an altar for what God is going to do before God has done anything. So far, Abram's the only one who's done anything. And God has not followed through or done anything yet. And Abram builds and worships anyway. So I want to talk... So ultimately, I think this story is about the small calls that we get all the time that have the potential to make a tremendous, huge difference in the world. So have you ever had just kind of a moment where you think you were being called in a small way, just an instinct to maybe do something, take your things and go over there, kind of a call, like that level of a calling? Have you ever had anything like that? And of course, I can go first because I've been thinking about it all day.
I've been thinking about it.
Also, Jonah brought his teddy bear.
Aww.
And I was thinking more on a personal level because it's kind of all I have, but I can go relationship with it, but I kind of don't want to now that you said it could, like, it's a butterfly effect. It could affect a lot of things on top of it. So like switching jobs, being a young, like 20-year-old in a full-time job, taught, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, save money, do this, do that. Don't ever leave where you're at. Like, just stay the course. But to have like a change of heart and thinking for myself and seeing management not treating me well as a 22-year-old or 23-year-old is like unheard of. But I mean that, like, now in this like modern culture, you got social media and Reddit that's already telling people like, no, get out. Like, everyone's experienced this. You're not going to be different. There's nothing here. But there's still a spiraling going around of, but I was taught this, so I guess I'm supposed to just do this. But seeing others suffer at the job, and if I can get out because I'm young, I keep hearing it.
Yeah, there's a lot of those things that are breaking down right now too. Like,
Yeah.
Like the whole work from home thing is just shattering.
Yeah, I was the whole student, like, I was taught from a very young age, get good grades and go to college. It's the only way to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you go to college at all costs. And thankfully, I was able to do that without incurring any debt. And, you know, I was able to take advantage of scholarships and grants and stuff. But like, a lot of people did go to college at all costs. And they got, you know, there's a little bit of snarkiness on my part because, you know, well, they got, you know, sociology degrees, and they majored in theater.
Yeah,
and
we call them fun degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there is a little bit of, but the idea that is the way forward is utterly breaking down and failing an entire percentage of our population.
Yeah.
And so like this call to do something else, to like strike your own path, I think that is active in our zeitgeist. I believe that God is at work in those ways.
Well, it's also, my mind's changed to think like that. So when I hear, okay, I'm thinking about a new job now, not being personal, but somebody in my life, I'm thinking about it. I'm horrible here. I'm miserable. I'm crying every night when I get home. There's too much work to do. I'm not getting paid enough. Now I have that. Oh, I did it. You just do it.
Yeah.
You just do it. You just do it. No one's gonna yell at you. It's only you. It's only you there. No one cares.
Well, yeah, there's something to the like.
But there's just this whole beating process. Like, you've been here. You
Actually letting what matters matter.
Yeah.
And letting what doesn't matter truly not matter.
But not knowing it doesn't matter.
Well,
Just thinking it does.
That's why the call aspect is so important.
Yeah.
We need something outside of us to pull us through those things. And also, it doesn't hurt to have some support from a spouse or a partner or whatever. You know, like that certainly helps.
Yeah, but I think the Abrams story is telling us like somebody had to do it. Somebody had to.
Yeah.
And God can make big things out of those small steps.
Because not every
small steps in the right direction can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And not every call is followed, and I think that's the whole point of this being in the Bible. Is he's like way past his age. He's definitely thought about this multiple times throughout his life. Has finally probably come to terms with like it's just not going to happen.
Well, that's one of the things that I often think about this story, because it's a pivotal story, so it comes up a lot for me. I think about it a lot. I personally, this is not in the text, it's just my own take on it. Okay, so do with it what you will. I don't think Abram heard a voice and went out. I think the idea of leaving and doing something different and new was probably noodling it at him for a long time. And then finally one day he was like, screw it. Yeah. We're going. Let's go over there. Let's see what's over there. Like, I'm done with this. I'm done with whatever this is. Let's go over there. It can't be worse than this. Let's go over there. And of course it always can be worse than this. But I just imagine that the monotony and the doldrums of whatever just eventually got to him, and that's one of the ways that God calls people. If we're stuck in a thing and we're just absolutely unable to find any joy or significance or meaning at all, trust that feeling. That's not the devil working on you. There's something that we long for, and we should feed that longing. I mean, certainly that has to be tempered. I'm not talking about being unfaithful or following unhealthy impulses. But if there's just this persistent thing that's constantly saying, I really don't want to be here, I really don't want to be doing it. So for me, mine was youth directing. I was a youth director and a worship director at the same time, and
you are validating his case.
Yeah. See, this is a lot like what I worked with, actually. But the idea of working with teenagers, it wasn't for me. There are plenty of people who are great at it. I'm not one of them. And it took me a long time of just sitting in that and doing what I thought I was supposed to do before I finally was no, I have to find a different thing. I have to work. And I wasn't reckless about it. I certainly prepared a pathway for myself to get out of there. But eventually I got to a place where I was just I'm not willing to do something I hate anymore.
Yeah.
Or not I hate, but certainly don't find a lot of meaning and significance in. I want to do something that matters to me.
Our culture's so imbibed and drunk with stay the course and it'll work out for you. And if you move away from the course and listen to some calling that you think is God.
It is risky. That's the thing. It is risky.
Yeah.
And the model of Abram is Abram celebrates what God is going to do before he even knows what God is going to do. And there's something about that. We can enjoy the potential. We can enjoy the potential of what's going to happen even before it's happened. I started doing the Mad Pastor channel. Well, check it out. It's not wildly successful. It's not going to pay the bills or anything. But I'm enjoying the potential of what it could be right now, and that's a form of work. I'm celebrating what God can do with it now, before God has done anything with it. And I don't know what God's going to do with it. I have no idea how that's going to turn out. But I can still enjoy it. And even if I'm wrong, I still get to enjoy it now. That's the thing. I think that's the heart of the story. Take moments to one, take risks, and two, celebrate the potential of what could happen now. I know you've been busy with the baby, but we're kind of reaching time, but I do want to check in with you. Do you have any thoughts on any of that? Anything that we've said so far?
I didn't have a great story. My big story was I have a medical condition that I self-diagnosed actually, but it was one of those things where I noticed something was a little off, and I was I guess I should go to the doctor. Let me get this checked out. And I remember thinking about it. I was 18 or 19.
Invincible. 18.
Yeah.
Invincible.
Can't. It'll never get me.
No.
I kind of had a suspicion of what it was, but I was nah, it can't be that. I kind of joked about it. We joked about it for 2 weeks. I go to the doctor. I even joked with the nurse about it.
You're probably having
diagnosis.
Cause Anne has some medical training. Probably have what do they call it? It's oh gosh. I can't remember. It's because you know all the potential things that could go wrong. You start to go it's probably that.
Oh, a hypochondriac a little bit.
Yeah, but it's like education-induced hypochondria.
I'm sure 18-year-old Ann was all over that.
Yeah, well, I know a lot of, because I worked at a hospital. I know a lot of doctors that have that.
Oh, I bet. But yeah, I mean, when I finally got the diagnosis, it was that's what it was. I was thinking about stuff at 20 that most 20-year-olds don't have to think about or worry about, or it was a total life-changing thing, and I just kind of had to deal with it. I'm dealing with you.
Yeah, so as we wrap up, two things I want to encourage. One is listen to those small voices. Like, listen to the little thing that noodles you, you know? And then second, enjoy the potential of what could happen. Like, tap into the possibilities that are available to us. Not available, but the potential of what could happen. Like, we can enjoy that and celebrate it now, even if it doesn't happen the way we thought it was going to happen. So, all right, we've gone on way too long anyway. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.